Good morning and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. You know, I think you can do better than that. Come on! Another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame! There we go. That's much better. I like it. Doesn't kind of get you pumped. What's happening out there? This is Robert Phoenix, back again from his 7-day stay in the lovely state of Florida, where I actually met a lot of very nice people. Don't get me wrong. If you listened to yesterday's show, there was some interesting moments in time, and I liked Florida. I liked a lot of the people. By the way, if you're in Fort Myers, try Izzy's Oyster Bar. It was really good. And one of the questions that came back to me from yesterday's show was, did I ever get a cigar? The answer to that question was no. I did not get a cigar. Although, it would have been nice to sit on the beach with some rum and have a cigar. But I didn't want to support that store. Not after I had that testy little conversation with the clerk. So what's happening out there? How is everybody? We got a little gray, overcast, slate gray sky here in Austin, Texas, which isn't too bad. We'll take a little shade, a little sun cover for the morning. Maybe it'll burn off by the end of the day, and we'll be back into the 90-plus range, which we've been here now for a while. This is now falling into the summer pattern sequence, and I'm okay with it. It is how things should be, hot in the summer in the state of Texas. On today's show, I wanted to talk about a couple of different things, and maybe they're related and connected. And if I talk long enough, maybe I'll find the thread that connects both of them. I want to talk about the disconnect in society that takes place between not just us and other people, and that clearly has been a program that's been forwarded since around 2000. 2001, you're either with us or against us. The whole Bush administration maxim where everything began to split. And the Twin Towers was the ritual occultation of that split. And ultimately, where we're going to go with this today is that the split plays a huge role in what's coming in our future, which is a brave new world. So get ready for that. We'll talk about that. But before we get into the disconnection between us and the dominant paradigm, I just wanted to kind of circle back to yesterday's show just for a little bit. Because one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I'm not sure if I really got around to this to the degree that I was hoping to, was that, we just keep hearing this drumbeat for war with North Korea. It is endless, it is ceaseless. Then we hear the drumbeats of war for Syria, and I guarantee you Venezuela is going to be on that list. They're already implementing sanctions against Venezuela. Here's the deal. And this gets back to the disconnection piece. The people who are essentially running this country by proxy, that would be the representatives of you and I, the congresspeople, senators, even the president to some degree, they don't represent us. And they certainly don't listen to us. And they are running a program that has nothing to do really with our wishes, our will, our desires, and what we believe is best for us. And that's just the bottom line. Now, every now and then you might find, let's say you're on the left, and you get a guy like this Sherman character from Sherman Oaks, California, who is banging the drum to impeach Trump. If you're on the left and you are invested in that, well, all of a sudden there's not much disconnect from Sherman or Maxine Waters or Nancy Pelosi or anybody on the left who is flying the same flag that you're flying ideologically. So in that case, they're kind of representing you. So now you have a government that's representative, but it's a fragment. It's a split, which again will come up later as we get into sort of the deeper structure of the split. But these people generally don't have. I mean, they don't represent us. I mean, we're all sitting around watching this North Korea drama going on. We're all saying, what the hell? Now, I know if you're on the right and you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you're thinking Kim Jong-un is nuts. He's going to nuke the United States. It's another boogeyman, Saddam Hussein. It's another boogeyman, Osama bin Laden. And these guys are marketed, and they're marketed for the purpose of the military-industrial complex because they need the weapons, they need the contracts, they need to keep soaking the taxpayers' dollars. That's just the way it is. So that we need the boogeyman. That's level one. Get the money, make the weapons, go have your nice vacation, and go afford that $100 cigar in Antigua with your wife, or if not your wife, your little squeeze on the side that you take along with you, because somehow in your mind you've earned it. You know, this is how this stuff works. And so we have the perceived threat, and we have to arm ourselves against perceived threat, which is an economic imperative. Now, below the perceived threat, and this idea of just kind of arming the military-industrial complex and rewarding them with huge, fat contracts, there's the next level, which is, well, who are these countries and why are we being so aggressive towards them? And it's pretty simple. Again, we kind of touched upon this a little bit yesterday. Neither North Korea, nor Iran, nor Syria, nor Cuba, and maybe not even Venezuela now at this point, depending upon what Maduro does, and nor Russia to a large degree, because they have their own central bank, are part of the Rothschild banking system. They're not in it. They're not in it. Iraq wasn't. Look what happened to Iraq. They got smashed. Libya wasn't. Look what happened to Libya. Libya got smashed. By the way, there's growing concern that the Awans had information. This is Jasper, by the way, who decided to get in on the show. That the Awans had all the Libyan information. They had all the stuff in Benghazi. They were there. They were servicing the computers. Clearly, there's got to be a link. And this is where maybe George Webb has already done his work. There's got to be a link between the Awans and the Clinton server. The one that she had in her closet. In her bathroom closet or whatever it was. You know, basically what they were doing is they were running proxy wars off that server. That's what they were doing. I talked about that for months. When I first found out that she had a server in her bathroom, it was like the light went off. It's like, okay, we have ISIS, we have Hillary Clinton, who's the Secretary of State, we have Huma Abedin, who's connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, and we have this rogue server. I'm like, they're running a proxy war. And this is exactly what they were doing. So perhaps maybe George Webb has gone there, that the Awans might have even had access to the Clinton server. And certainly, if not the Clinton server, plenty of other servers. So there's this theory going around now that they actually leaked information that was very relevant to Benghazi. And of course, the Benghazi thing was a mess to begin with. But anyway, we have these countries, and they're not part of the Rothschild banking system. And so they want to bring them in so they'll be a part of the Rothschild banking system. And thus we have the global currency. And this is why these wars are being forced upon us. And we're back in that same boat that we were with the Bush administration and the neocons. They're going to go to war, and they don't give a fuck what you think. I try not to swear, but I have to every now and then pull a Scaramucci. Or Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins likes to talk about how using the F-bomb every now and then is a really good psychological tool. You don't always want to use it, but sometimes you got to use it. Because what does it do? It jars people out of their everyday consciousness. And if you're not willing to be jarred out of your everyday consciousness, I'm here to tell you that you're not alive. I'm here to challenge you, in a loving way, of course, to be a bigger and better you. Anyway, I love my cat, but he's high maintenance sometimes. It's not as high maintenance as my female cat. Jesus. I'm getting ready to give her up. She's totally possessive. She's totally possessive. It's kind of weird. My male cat, he's just a teddy bear. Okay, you gotta get down. Come on, you're really distracting me now. Thank you. All right, so we're back in it. But this is what I'm talking about, because at some point, they're going to try to flip these countries. And they may try to do it all in one shot. Because if they're up against this deadline, if they want to bring the global currency in and end cash, like I said, they're going to have to bring the whole thing down. And so in order to do that, they would say, well, we can piecemeal this. Let's see. They're running all their game theory. Well, let's see, if we do this with Korea, and this happens, and this happens. They've got about 500 different scenarios that they're running off their computers and their models. This is what they do. They run these scenarios. Well, if we do this, this, and this, and this, these are the variables. And so they've actually run hundreds of multiple versions of wars on all of these countries. And they sit around and they watch it and they go, oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, we'll only lose 2.5 million people in this scenario. But it takes us a longer time to recover. And, this is what they do. So while we're here doing our best, working our jobs, sometimes 1, 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. If you're working for yourself, you're hustling all the time. And we're doing our best to hold our emotional lives together, our spiritual lives together, our family lives together, oftentimes with people who have not woken up, who still persist on clinging to this false reality, this illusory paradigm that somehow medicine is good for us, that somehow allowing for genetically modified foods is for the greater good and will allow more people to consume higher yields and thus bring up the population of the planet. Don't they know that that's a problem too? It's like, oh yeah, let's feed everybody. Let's use genetically modified food. And then I'm not saying we want to starve the planet. I'm not advocating that I can get a Whataburger here in Texas and they get a not a burger in Africa. No, I'm not advocating that at all. But there are consequences for being able to feed the population, because you've got a rise in populations. This is one of the things that people don't think about. Like, oh, we have too many humans. Our footprint is too great. So we need to downsize. Let's downsize our lives. Let's not consume as much. let's breathe less air. Instead of taking full breaths, let's take half breaths. If everybody takes half breaths, we'll have more air to breathe. Half portions, half glasses of water, half breaths. And so we extend our lives, or the life of the planet, by double. So you have that line of thinking. Meanwhile, let's create genetically modified food. So in very strange and weird conditions, things can grow and we can feed more people who can then take half a breath. This is the cognitive dissonance of the social order. There's the disconnect is the fact that we're sitting around here kind of watching these theatrics. The chess, I watched Mike Pence today in Europe. Where was he? Montenegro or one of the Balkanized states. And I just looked at the guy and you just wanted to punch him in the face. We're back to that Bush era. You just want to punch people in the face. I wanted to punch Obama in the face. I can say that now. I wanted to punch him in the face. I was on Twitter, and there's this sports guy, he's big fat sports guy, and he was ranting about, I want to see Obama and Trump WWE 3 for the presidential SmackDown, winner takes all. Really? Look, I know Trump is 70 years old, and Obama's my age. Obama's 55. I'll still take Trump. I will still take Trump. There's a workout video of Obama on YouTube. Oh my God, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. I guarantee you Obama's never been in a fight in his life. And if he has, he got his ass kicked. But I don't think he's been in a fight in his life. I still take Trump. And anyway, there's Mike Pence. This rhetoric about the evil and God, just selling. Politics is marketing. It's marketing, and it is trans-inductive. Yes, you're right, Vice President Pence. You're right. We must protect our freedoms. We must protect our freedoms. We must be able to allow you to attack anybody. Please protect our freedoms, President Pence. And by the way, can you find my stapler? Can you find my stapler? Yes, I have the red swing line. Do you know what that's from? Office Space. And you sit around. And you got Nikki Haley. We're not going to take it anymore from North Korea. We will do whatever we need to take. Are you kidding me? Who are these people? They're responding to a synthetic threat. And we just get hijacked. The people who really follow, we've got to go get Kim Jong-un. We got to wipe him out. Let's go to war with Russia. It just boggles my mind. And here we have the disconnect. This is what I'm talking about. The social disconnect. Because if you sat down and you talked with people, you give me 100 people, and out of that 100 people, I guarantee you, I'll get 90 people 85 people, 90 might be too much, 85 people that don't want to go to war. I could convince another 5 not to. And then you'll have 10 who are so completely enmeshed in their POV that you're just not going to move them. That is the will of the people. And we have a grave disconnect here. This is where it's huge. Huge. But they're doing these wars so they can ramp us up and get us into the one world currency, the electronic currency, the facial recognition, which we talked about yesterday. Everybody's got it. It's in your iPhone. What are they asking us? Are they asking us? I was on Facebook. I'm going to give you a couple Facebook stories. I was on Facebook, and a long-time listener, reader, posted something, tagged me on a post about that company, Wisconsin, where they're giving their employees the chip. Which, of course, is not mandatory. It's a choice. 50 of their employees have said, yeah, I'll take the chip. So you're part of the other 50, and you're watching all these people do all this cool stuff with their hands. Hey, look, I can open this door. I can open this door with my hand. I have magical powers. I'm transmitting a beam of electricity right into that door, right into that receptor cell of that door, and I can open it. Oh, look, I can turn the lights off and on with my hand. Don't you wish you had this? The same power that I do? Look what you have to do. You've got to get on your cell phone, and you have to get the app to turn the lights off. I don't need the app. I just raise my hand. And as far as the door goes, you've got to get up, and you've got to open it yourself. That is so 20th century. And then you're sitting around and you go, oh, geez, man, these people, look at all the cool stuff they've got to do around here. Look at all the things. They could turn that coffee maker on with the wave of their hand. This is amazing. And I don't have it. And of course, it's the bring your kid to work day, and your kid comes in and he sees all these people with magical powers, turning computers on with their hands, and lights on with their hands, and opening doors with their hands, and operating the coffee maker with their hands. You go over and you've got to do this. Dad, how come all these people can do all these cool things and you can't? You can't do the same cool things as these people. And you say, like, man, I'm a failure to my kid. They can open the door with their hand. And I can't do that. And then, of course, there's the wife situation. Honey, what else can these men do with their hands without having to touch anything? Oh my God, you're thinking, oh my God. I'm getting it from my kid, my wife. I've got to take the chip. Just to compete, I've got to take the chip. Then they take the chip. And they're doing all the same things. Ooh, look, I'm starting the coffee maker in my hand. Ooh, I'll wave with my hand. I'm turning on the lights and I'm opening the door. Then you become a douche. Now you're a douche. That's the way it is. But it's all connected to the global currency. But did they ask us? No. No, and they're not going to. They're not going to. Hi, people. It's one of those. How many surveys do we get now? Before you hang up the phone, we'd like to ask you a few questions for a voluntary survey. You buy something, it's like, would you mind answering a few questions? It's like everything now is linked to like a few questions in a survey. No, no, and no. I do not want to participate in your survey. Here's the survey. We'd like to know if you would be A, very open to a global currency that is based on electronics and digital currency. B, somewhat open to the global currency with electronics and a digital currency. C, not very open at all. D, I have no interest. Did we get that? And what if we came back D, 75%? Okay, we won't do it. Let's just keep cash. Thanks. We really appreciate your feedback. But we'll keep doing this until we get the number down to 60%, 50%, 40%, 30%. Ah, okay. 10 years from now, after you've got a generation who've seen their parents use their phones for transactions, credit cards, cash. What's cash? I don't know what cash is. All I know, go ahead. Those didn't play a big role in my life. I don't have any. You see, that's what's going to happen. At some point, there'll be a generation where they'll be so suffused, and it's coming very soon here. They'll be so suffused because we've been doing Apple Pay, Google Wallet, all these kinds of mobile pay systems for about maybe 3 or 4 years now, 5 years max, about 5 years. So if you're a kid that was born in 2012, you're 5 years old now, and so you have a conscious memory of things. And the conscious memory of things, if you're in an urban area, let's say you're growing up in a city, you're going to see these phones being taken out, and it's going to become part of your consciousness. So that 10 to 15 years from now, when they decide to run, and maybe even before then, if they decide that they're just running out of time, they run their non-cash model, these kids won't care. Because they've been indoctrinated slowly into this model. And this is where we lose the power and the impact of social memory. It's like there are kids that know Ice Cube, but they know Ice Cube from the movies. Whatever family BS movie Ice Cube is doing or has done, some vacation. I don't know. I stopped following Ice Cube. I do know he has a basketball league called the Big Three, which sounds great on the surface. Okay, having a 3-on-3 half-court basketball league with ex-NBA stars sounds great on the surface, but I can tell you it is boring as hell. And the reason it's boring is because you've got 7-foot guys on a half court. Not all of them are 7 feet, but there's not a lot of space on that half court. And what do we love about the NBA? We love to see them run up and down the court and fly through the air and slam the ball through and do all this acrobatic stuff. You don't see that on this Big Three. It'll flop. Anyway, getting back to Ice Cube. These kids know Ice Cube is an actor and a dad, and they don't know Ice Cube from, Fuck the Police, NWA. They don't know him from that. See, this is the Marianas Trench of social memory. Now, I was born in 1960, and people roughly from 1960 to around I'd say the drop-off point is around 75. That there's a different kind of social memory post-1975, roughly, and I'm maybe 76. It's a different social memory. And you move up to 2012, and you have kids that are growing up in a very different social milieu. And we don't understand it, because we're not immersed in it from that perspective. And that's another part of the social disconnect. The children that are right around 5, 6 years old, to some degree, maybe a little bit older, they're in a very different wave pattern. And so the social changes that are coming to them will not be as jarring because they're being inculcated and indoctrinated. But for the rest of us, there's a disconnect. So I'll give you 2 examples of the disconnect on Facebook. Again, there was this person who's been a long-time reader, and she posted this piece about the chip in Wisconsin. And one of her Facebook friends says, "It's about time." And I'm like, okay, let me look at this guy's profile. And you go to his picture. It's like these people are fucking cliches. I'm sorry, they're cliches. That's my second swear word. Because you look at his profile, and he's got, you know how they do those overlays in your Facebook? I stand with Paris, I stand with the rainbow people, the equality symbol. I mean, he's just checking off all those boxes. I was thinking, oh God. Of course he's going to be into the chip. And then my reader, who's very nice, well, maybe we can have a bracelet or a ring or something like that. It contains the same information. Well, the problem with the bracelet and the ring is you can take it off. The chip you can't take out. But I was like, there is a disconnect. Here's a guy who says that he thinks it's a good thing. Everything progressive, everything new, everything that breaks everything down like an enzyme is good. And I guarantee you right now he would not spend 3 minutes listening to what I have to say because of his social programming. We all have it. I have my own version of it. I try to break it down in my own way. But it was just I was like, okay, of course. Of course. And then the other thing I saw on Facebook is a lot of you know that I used to do some stuff with Ra Cosmophysics. Ra's an amazing astrologer. He's a great guy. I really like him. He just had a baby. He's going to be a father. So, congratulations to him. He had this video up of this young white kid. He's 5 years old, and he's like, got a gun, and he's taking it apart, and he calls the gun my princess, and he says, well, these people train for sport. We need to train to survive. So he's making a distinction, right? Here we go. Here's the white folk. They're training for sport. We got to train to survive. And I'm thinking, okay, well, why don't we all train together? Wouldn't that be a novel idea? What if we all train together, and we train together so that we can combine our efforts and maybe reassess our relationship with the banking class and the banking system itself? Ooh, wouldn't that be novel? Wouldn't that be novel? Well, we're all on the same page. But here is another example of the disconnect. Because now there is an overriding program that's been introduced into the mainframe. And the overriding program is white people are evil, they're bad, and they need to be eradicated. And they're going to use every single tool in their playbook in order to facilitate this. Another disconnect. Another disconnect. And I look around, I'm like, don't you people get it? Don't you understand it? Let's play it out. Let's just say what's happening in South Africa comes to Europe, comes to the United States, and we're dealing with a calamitous situation, and people are being slaughtered in the streets, and all of a sudden the white population is reduced to measly 5%. Think about that. There's some people that love that, that applaud. But I guarantee you that if that were the case, then whoever's around next, they move to the top of the list. Because their eradication would take place not long after that. And then who's ever after that, their eradication would then take. So ultimately, what you'd have is a very small population. And the most controllable population, whatever's left, would be the most controllable in some ways. And then you'd have the master social engineers who'd crafted all of this, sitting back saying, we did it. We did it. We are now the gods of this world, the lords of this planet, and we have mastered this domain. We have removed every single perceived threat. We have our robots in place who can service us most of the time. We have a slave class that, as long as we can keep the population in check, We can do whatever we want. What is that? I think it's my phone. I don't have it with me. What is this? Oh, it's my son. There it is. They don't understand that. There's that thing from World War II. First they came for this group, and then they came for this group, and then I stood by, and I stood by, and I stood by, and then they came for us. That's exactly what will happen. But they don't understand that. Because there are too many self-interests involved. I'm going to get mine, and these people have been in the way for me getting mine for so long, and once they're out of the way, then I'm going to get mine. I feel so good. Oh, God, I feel so good. Oh, I've got mine. Give me another cold one. What'd you say? I've got to get my old cold one? The social disconnect. So, I wanted to talk about something else. Because we're getting to this place now. The disconnect. The severing. The cutting. The cutting of one level of consciousness from another level of consciousness, or one unit from another unit. So between the two, there was a gap, there was a gulf. I've been researching something called CRISPR. Some of you may know what it is. Some of you may not know what it is. CRISPR, CRISPR, stands for clustered, regularly interspersed short palindromic repeats. So what we're talking about here is we're talking about segments of DNA containing short repetitive base sequences. And once they were able to map the DNA, they found these short repetitive sequences that were palindromic. They were like clones. And in 2012, they developed a system, a very affordable, fast gene-splicing tool. And it is called Cas9. And Cas9 allows, so think of gene splicing as a computer language. If you go back in the days of the kind of the early computer nerds and geeks, you had COBOL and Fortran, System 7. I mean, these were really hard computer languages to learn. Like, you needed to know math, and it was very, kind of complex. And then eventually they came up with HTML. And once HTML or some of the other languages that came along, Java, whatever, right? Things became editable really, really quickly. Super quickly. This is the same thing that's happened in the realm of DNA. CRISPR is kind of like the Wix of gene splicing. Like, if you went online right now and Googled CRISPR, you could basically apply for a CRISPR kit. If you're a scientist, you can get CRISPR kits. And people are going to be doing their own version of basically home gene splicing. And they just had a breakthrough up in Oregon. And I'm going to punch this up right over here. This is from the Singularity Hub. And let me just... So this is from Vivek Wadhwa. This is from just a couple days ago. And I'm just going to read you the first couple paragraphs here. Scientists in Portland, Oregon just succeeded in creating the first genetically modified human embryo in the United States. According to Technology Review, a team led by Shukrat Mitalipov of the Oregon Health and Science University has reported to have broken new ground both in the number of embryos experimented upon. Where are they getting the embryos, by the way? Let's just break that down for a second. Do they go to Embryos R Us? Maybe they go to Planned Parenthood to get the embryos. Or maybe they're just growing the embryos in these synthetic wombs. Have broken new ground both in the number of embryos experimented upon and by demonstrating what is possible to safely and efficiently correct defective genes that cause inherited diseases. What happens to the embryos after they're done with the experiments? Anybody answer that? Now, these are not embryos that are, they're not chicken embryos. They're not rat embryos. I'm assuming these are human embryos. The U.S. team's results follow two trials, one last year and one in April, by researchers in China. China can do anything. Anything. The U.S. team's results follow two trials, one last year and one in April, by researchers in China who injected genetically modified cells into cancer patients. The research teams used CRISPR, a new gene editing system derived from bacteria that enables scientists to edit DNA of living organisms. Okay, so what they do, it's this Cas9. They take the bacteria, it's kind of like when they genetically modify a plant. And they introduce a virus. And the virus is different than bacteria. Right? It's different. But they introduce a virus into a watermelon seed. Or watermelon plant, whatever. And that watermelon plant goes to attack it. Here's a virus. Ooh, got to get the virus. So it takes all of its energy and all of its effort and puts it into dealing with the virus. And then they're going through the back door. And they say, oh, watermelon, here you go. We're going to inject some chicken DNA in you. How about that? And the watermelon vine or seed or whatever says, well, it doesn't know. Next thing you know, you've got watermelons with chicken DNA. So they're doing the same thing. It's the same application. Instead of a virus, they're using bacteria. And so they'll use the bacteria to go in and basically cut a gene sequence. Just go in and cut that, just drop it in there, cut that gene sequence. And then they introduce new genomic material. So this is the disconnect, right? This is the disconnect between one strand of DNA and another. So what we have here is we have the disconnect happening on the macro, and now we have the disconnect happening on the micro. And so when we have the disconnect on the macro, they're doing the same thing. They are sequencing the genetic chain for the global body, or the collective. Just as that they're doing it inside the embryo. They're doing it in the embryo. So now, this is going to be Gattaca territory. I'm telling you right now. We are getting ready to be launched into a time where, it's going to be strange. I'm sorry. It's just going to be strange. Because you'll sit down. So you're going to have a kid. Okay, you're going to have a kid. You may not even have a kid inside the mother's womb. The child may be raised in some other medium. I'm serious about that. But let's just say, for posterity's sake, good old-fashioned organic analog child rearing, that it does happen inside the mother's womb. You would have a catalog. First of all, there'd be a genetic scan. This is where this is going. There'll be a genetic scan and say, you know what, you're at risk of having X, Y, and Z and a blah, 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 blah. Probably best if you didn't have a kid. However, if you did want to have a child, we can go in there and we can essentially eradicate the predisposition for fill-in-the-blank disease or condition. And by the way, we can give you some upgrades here. We can definitely give you some upgrades. We've actually found a genetic point for IQ. And we can actually insert another genomic model for IQ. Would you like that? It'll probably raise your child's IQ by about 35 points, 40 points. Yeah, that'd be great. We also found that based on the genetic modeling of the strand, that your son will not hit puberty really till about 15 years of age. And as we all know, if you have any investment in athletic performance, your son really needs to hit puberty a lot sooner, around 12 or 13. Would you be interested in accelerating his puberty so that he can be competitive with his peers? Oh, of course. We just want to give him the absolute best shot in succeeding in life. Okay, check that box. Now, we've also noticed here that based on your genetic history, that you mostly have Northern European extraction. And as you know, again, on a competitive basis, there are people from other parts of the planet who tend to be a little more athletically competitive. Now, we can insert some of those genes as well, and your son will never lose his trace identity. He'll look just like you. However, he might be able to slam dunk a basketball like Michael Jordan. Are you interested in that? Oh, absolutely. Check that box. Okay, so here we go. This is what we've got so far. We have the diagnostic model, which we're eradicating for the top 6 diseases or conditions that he may fall prey to before the age of 12. So that's part of the eradication program, and that's ching. And then we have these inserts. You've got 4 inserts, and that's ching. And the total is ching. Are you guys ready to sign off on that? And how would you like payment? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, just give me your right hand and I'll scan you. I'll scan you for the first payment. It's where it's going. That is where it's going. And if you don't play at that level, what's going to happen is that there will be a Gattaca-like class. And there will be people who will be outside of this social experiment. Now, I'm reading this thing on the Singularity Hub about this experiment. I guarantee you these things have been taking place for years, decades and decades and decades. And only now are they seeing the light of day in the type of science that we can handle. But this stuff's been going on for a very long time in deeper, darker places than Oregon. Portland, Oregon has become this weird social centrifuge, hasn't it? But this is all part of the disconnect. And the disconnect from where we are and our potential future, which is, based on what I'm seeing, a very different world than the one that we've been accustomed to. Very, very different. And there are people who, will buy into it. There's social Darwinism. They want to give we just want to give our kids the best chance of being successful. If you look up CRISPR, you can actually go and buy your own CRISPR kit. It's a few cursory questions that they'll ask you. Here, I'll do it right now. Let me just go in here. This will be an easier one. We have CRISPR. Just put this in here. Okay. And it's a paid ad. It'll pop right up. Do this at home. let's see. Let's do this. Do this. Okay. Your first CRISPR experiment. Get started with free CRISPR kit. This is from a company called Synthego. And what's interesting is they ask you some questions. So this is, and a lot of the stuff is done via computer too. You can actually type in code. It's very, very interesting. And I'm not talking about the application process. It's actually dealing with the gene splicing, gene editing. So they have a piece here. It's like a drop-down CRISPR application. Like, what are you going to use CRISPR for? And here are the choices: human cell line, human primary cells, stem cells, non-human cell line, transgenic animals. Yeah, hybrids. Plants, ag bio, biofuels, and then there's other. What would be the other? Who's this? What is this? Bobby. We're away from them, but send your questions, and we'll reply as soon as possible. Bobby's the avatar that answers your questions. Bobby! Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your awareness, and the awareness of the disconnect on so many different levels. And how do we resolve all this? Yeah, you got what? I saw a great post on Facebook by Adam Reagan, who sometimes I think listens to the show, and he says, people ask me, how do you deal with what's going on in the world and change and yada yada yada? And it's like, you got to work on yourself. This is true. You, to the best of your ability, must be as whole as possible, body, mind, and spirit. That's the way it is. And you get there, and you can move from that place of wholeness. I myself personally am rededicating myself to that process as we speak in this very moment. And when you don't have a disconnect, when you're masculine and you're feminine and your light side and your shadow side and your divine forgiveness and your divine retributor are all coalesced in one unified field of consciousness, body, mind, and spirit, soul, personality, self, when it's all there, then you are no longer part of the disconnect because you've resolved these things inside of yourself. And it's not always easy. It's a lifelong process. But if you can get there and stay there and hold it, and find other people that can hold it, and support each other, not bullshit each other, not tell each other lies. If you can do that, we're talking a whole different level and wave of consciousness. We can do all of this organically. We can do it all organically. It can happen organically. What's inside of us, the amount of brain power we don't use, that we can open through meditation or the right use of herbs, maybe the occasional psychoactive substance, it's all inside of us. All the other stuff, that is the deception. That's the deception. We have everything we need inside of ourselves. All right. Well, why don't we call it a wrap today? What are we at? 54:24. Wow, I talked a long time. Oh, I've got to go to the chiropractor. All right. Let's play the music. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have a wonderful day.